Hello, everybody, and welcome to Manage the Moment, our new WMSA podcast. I'm here with Steve Lee. Thanks so much for joining me today.
No problem. Good to be here.
Yeah. So, I'm just going to start off with brief outline, if you will. So could you briefly just give an outline on what you have done or what you do in your career?
Sure. Well, it was the late 80s when I went through University of Waikato and did a business management degree. So I think I graduated about 1990, somewhere there, and then moved into some corporate jobs. And eventually, by the late 90s, I'd moved up to marketing manager for an engineering company,
Right.
and then saw the light and went out into business for myself.
Okay.
With a mate who came to me with a weird idea, and we went for it. And I was pretty fortunate, actually. The company I was working for saw the potential in it, and they actually invested some money in our venture. So I thought it would be a tricky situation, but it turned out to be really good. I think one of the lessons I learned from that was, never burn your bridges. Be really positive with people, give it everything, even if you're in a job where you don't see a future, you never know. In fact, the people I had a company car then, and they just said, look, why don't you hold on to the car for the next year, and we'll just consider that as an investment in you and in your business, as well as the money that they put in.
Because networks are becoming more and more important as time goes on, especially as your career progresses. That's so interesting, actually.
I think it's about being a positive contributor. If you're always positive wherever you are and doing the best you can, thinking outside of the box and innovatively, will actually, people warm to that and they're attracted to it.
Okay. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Like, at least even just in university, it's like those who, have like add stuff to the class discussion or like very positive. Usually, the ones that people remember have the most fondest like recollection of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And after that, I think after 3 or 4 years, I actually sold my shares in that business and got married. And actually, my wife wanted to have kids, and we took more of a stable route for a few years, and I went back to corporate life.
Mm-hmm.
And after about 3 or 4 years of that, I realized, look, I just couldn't handle it. I needed to get back out into my own business. And
right.
Almost went through a kind of burnout, and then got back into my own business. And I'm an insurance broker now, which has gone really well, and I'm loving that.
So could you give a brief outline of the your own venture that you started? You mentioned being an insurance company, right?
Well, now, do you mean now or?
Yeah, if that's okay.
Insurance broking is not quite like starting I did start from scratch, but actually, there's some big insurance companies, and being a broker, you're your own business, and basically, the more insurance you sell, the more money you make. What really appealed to me about insurance was that you could earn a trail income. So as you're taking on clients, as your list of clients grows, you get a very small percentage whenever they're paying their monthly or annual premiums. You get a percentage of that. So I was actually working with another broker. I was a business coach, and when they told me about that, I thought that was really interesting. So now, while lockdowns happened and actually the insurance industry has gone a bit flat, at least I've got income coming through from my trail commission,
right?
As everyone pays their premiums and that sort of thing. So it's a passive income now, which is a good base.
I've heard a lot of discussion about like active income versus like passive income. Passive being the more preferable because, well, it keeps going. It doesn't stop when you stop working.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I wished I'd started out building a passive income many years ago, but you live and learn.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. And so there's quite a few of these already, but what would be like one of the most key insights you've learned from your whole career as a whole? We've already got quite a few good ones though.
So I think number one, define your purpose. And I think once you define your purpose, a lot of other things kind of drop out from that. And, you know, your purpose could be, you know, doing good in the world and going to a third world country and doing something like that, you know, and if you kind of squash that down and just pursue a corporate career trying to make some money before following what you're really designed to do, well, you know, you're kind of pretending to be someone you're not. And I did that for a number of years in corporate life, and really it wasn't me. And I paid the price. Sorry, my computer just beeped.
No worries.
So, the other thing is don't play it too safe. You know, like when you're in your 20s, even 30s, look, take some risks. You know, I think one of the lessons I learned was I played it too safe in the corporate world, you know, thinking that was, you know, where I could get ahead and all that sort of thing. Look, I learned a lot of lessons, you know, working in those corporate jobs, but it wasn't until I got out and into my own business that it was like the lessons accelerated, the learning just accelerated at a massive pace. So, yeah, I don't play it safe. Follow your dreams, follow your passion, define your purpose, and, you know, often your day-to-day activities will come from that.
That's really encouraging advice as well, especially with the having like a purpose set out beforehand, because if you have like an anchor, you won't be swayed by like whatever like one company wants you to be and such, and it can help guide your decisions. So like you have a clear vision, and like I know for a fact when you're personally attached to like a venture or something, you that degree of involvement will like heighten the learnings like crazy.
Yeah. And look, when you've got a purpose that sustains you, you know, maybe you might for 3 or 4 years do a job where you need to learn and earn, you know, and but you've got in the back of your mind where it's taking you. And if you don't know where you're going to end up or where what your aim is, you know, then you don't put as much effort in, you don't get as enthusiastic about what you're doing because you don't see the end result. So,
right. Well, that transitions into our next question I have quite nicely. So like what was that like to start your own venture? You mentioned like it's more engaging and you learn a lot more. Could you just walk us through the like aspects of starting something off your own?
look, it was quite scary. And, you know, I've done it a few times, you know, so I'd had my corporate career and then went out into business, went back to corporate and then went into business again. And the older you get, the more scary it becomes, because as you get older, you know, look, you know, there's corporate life, there's Corrie Club, you get health benefits, the salaries keep on going up, company car, and all those things become, I've heard it defined as a golden cage.
Right.
So yeah, there's gold there, but it traps you, and it stops you from taking risk. Now, it depends on the type of person you are. Some people just, all they want to do is work in a corporate job. Well, look, if that's what you want to do and that's your purpose, go for it. But look, for me, I could never be happy really in that environment. I needed to be out doing something for myself and building a future for myself. So, you know, look, with a wife and 2 kids and a mortgage, it was very scary. And, you know, you leave behind a pretty decent income. That's why I'd really encourage you to do it while you're young.
Right.
You know, even look, if it's a fish and chip shop, you know, you can learn so much by running a fish and chip shop.
There's a market for that stuff too.
Absolutely.
Huge market in New Zealand, yeah.
And there's a huge amount of businesses that aren't run well, you know, and you can make a lot of money from a fish and chip shop. Not that I've done that and not that I'm advocating that, but I'm just using it as an example. You know, just get out there and do it.
Yeah. And that ties back to what you were saying about like having a clear purpose as well. Like Like if corporate isn't your thing, it's good to know that beforehand, before you like the years go by and you've been stuck in that golden cage and such, which is fantastic advice. I've pondered on that quite a bit. Like being in a rut sometimes can be very comfortable. It's more like a hammock because it's hard to get out of and it's
Yeah.
comfortable. You've got all the benefits and such, and risk taking can be very unattractive.
Mm.
At least like to make that first step. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And look, it's about being true to yourself.
Mm.
You can think it's a risk, but it's actually a risk to play it safe. Because what happens if you play it safe? You actually you dull something inside of you that you're created and born to do, and you can become grumpy, you can lose hope, get depressed, all those sorts of things if you're squashing down what's really inside. So I'd really encourage people to actually define what your values are and know your values, and then you can make some good decisions about going forward.
That's really it's actually really good advice, because people talk about the risks of like leaving corporate, but very few people mention the risks of staying corporate. Like I think it's a good example of opportunity cost, and what are you missing out on by staying in that job? What opportunities are you squandering because like to have that bit of security and those benefits and such? Yeah. So just building off that, what's something you'd say to someone who's like young and out there wanting to start their own venture and business, and they're not sure what to do at the moment?
Yeah, so the first thing that's coming to mind is have patience. If I've just lately, insurance for me is actually flattened down with coronavirus, etc. And I've been thinking, well, okay, it's a good base for me now, but is there another passive income I can start building somewhere else, or invest in a business or something like that?
Right.
Now, I would think in any week I'd probably have 10 reasonable ideas. And if you set your mind to thinking of ideas, or you tell your mind to actually look out for an opportunity, it'll obey and it'll come up. But the thing is to not get excited about the first one. It might be the 160th idea that's the winner. So have patience and wait for that right opportunity. But what you can do is actually define what you want. See, I've seen people get out and start businesses, but then the business all revolves around them. There's no passive income that they're developing. They can't sell the business because it's all about them. Whereas, I define what sort of business you want. You could say, okay, I want a business that, over the years, the passive income grows and grows and grows. And I don't want it to be completely dependent on me, because I want to go away for a good holiday at Christmas and that sort of thing. So I need a business that's going to have good systems, and I need a business where I will have good staff to look after these things. So you're in charge, basically. Think of what you actually want to end up with, and be a bit disciplined to not jump to something that is not really what you will take you where you want to go.
And that's that good advice I heard at one point. It's like being able to work on the business and not purely just in the business. So having a separate life like from your business as well, which can be very hard because you're investing a lot of time and like financial income, well, a lot of your assets and such into it, but like being able to separate yourself from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I could talk about this one all night, so I'll say another thing, but cut in, Robert, and tell me to shut up if you need to. But the other thing is, business isn't all about money. If you're just chasing money, actually after a couple of years it loses its shine. You've got to have motivation outside of money. And I recently pulled a book out of the bookcase that I read a number of years ago called Obliquity. And one of the examples in that book was Boeing. And Boeing used to be very passionate about building planes. In the 60s, they developed the 747, and it became hugely profitable for them. But now I can't remember when it was, but it might have been in the 80s. They employed a CEO that was very focused on the money, very focused on the numbers, and actually generating as much profit as possible. And it changed the whole culture of the company to being less passionate about planes and more passionate about money. The problem is, when you're passionate about the money, you don't end up doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
When Boeing was driven by people who are passionate about flying, they did a whole lot better financially.
That's so interesting. Yeah, having the right having the right core values of a business and such.
Sorry,
no worries.
Just jumping on the windows. Yeah.
Nah, welcome guest. And something that's come up in one of my marketing lectures is perspective. So like some people, like you get those CEOs who come into a company to fix it up or whatever, and they're like purely revenue focused. So, and they'll be like short-term focused where they do a lot of sales stuff to like make the books look really good over like a 6-month period, or maybe like a couple year period, and then they leave, and then the business fails or collapses or goes way downhill because they've like jeopardized that like big picture, that long term, just for some profits in the short term. So I think
Leo Coco, I think his name was a classic example of that.
Right.
He turned around GM. GM was struggling. He came in, fixed it up. 5 years later, he left, and then it fell to pieces again.
Right.
So yeah, exactly what you say.
Absolutely. Okay. And just veering back to like people, like students like me and such, coming out of like management school and such like that, looking at all the decisions, because there's a lot of often life-changing decisions that you make at that period in your life. What's some advice you give to like newly graduating business students, or even just new graduates of anything?
Don't go it alone. I think when I was graduating, you kind of you felt small, and the world was very big. And I think after you've had a few years out there, you actually realize, look, anyone's fair game. You can email the Prime Minister if you need to, or whatever. You might just get their secretary, but you'll get a response. And so a mate and I, when we started our first business, we were, we put some money in ourselves, and we had a bit of investment, but we had this order which was great, and we needed to import some stock in from overseas, and we needed some funds to to fund that. Now, we couldn't get it from the bank. The bank wouldn't give us even $20,000 of overdraft. Right. But then we met this guy, and he was recommended to us by someone else. He'd retired. He was on the Business Roundtable. He was at one stage the CEO of New Zealand Dairy Group, and a heck of a nice guy, but a real straight shooter. And he came and saw us, completely understood where we were at. And he said, "Why are you wasting your time with the local bank? Come on, let's go see my mates down in the office in Queen Street." So we trot down to the bank in Queen Street with this guy, Mac. And we came out with $100,000 overdraft that day without having to give any security. And the guy said, "Look, if you guys need another 100,000 on top of that, just give us a yell. We'll see what we can do." And that just showed me an example of don't try and go it alone. There's people out there that would love to help you. There's people who have been successful in business who get an absolute kick out of helping someone start up in business and use some of your skills and learnings to help these people. So look, approach people and use their contacts and network and that sort of thing, and go for it.
So your network is one of your most valuable things. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, that's some great insights there. Thank you very much, Steve, for your time. Really appreciate that.
No problem. Pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in, and hope you stay with us for the next one. Thank you very much.
Cool.